Well, I think what I would like to do, I am sending us some support remedies, flower essences as we're talking. Um, and I think I would like to start. Oh, how do I go? Hold on. There we go. Okay. Start with maybe a prayer, and then we'll launch in, if that's okay with everybody. So I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Maybe in the nose, out the mouth as a kind of grounding or connecting to the body breath. In spirit, I just thank you for this time to share. And I thank you for the support. Uh, and I ask that you meet with us, Spirit. We invite our highest helpers and guides to circle with us in this time, to hold space and to help us take in what is appropriate for each of us. Maybe there's parts of stories that I will share that won't resonate, or I just ask that for each individual here now and in the future who may listen to this, that what is appropriate to be impacted by or to receive, that be what each person receives. And I ask that you give me strength as I share, and I thank you. Aho. So first of all, thank each of you for being here. Because this feels a little bit more, for me, it's definitely vulnerable and tender stuff for me to share this aspect of what I want to share, or what I'm feeling called to share. And Bradford can tell you that I've definitely considered backing out of doing this a number of times this last week. So it's been a bit of a challenging, like, the stuff coming up for me. So I don't really have a PowerPoint or slides for this talk. It's going to be more kind of um, just in the moment. It was very abstract and very kind of multi-dimensional experience. So hopefully my conveying and talking about it will make some sense. Um, and I'll pause a bit, periodically, to just see if there's any questions or comments. If you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand with the little button, or put a in the reactions. If you hit reactions, you can click to raise your hand. Or if you want to type it into the chat, you can do that too. So hopefully everyone who's watching this has previously watched my talk on the age of Aquarius, and now I know that talk is not complete in and of itself, but it is a good kind of background or lead into this. So let me feel into how to begin. um, So I was raised in a very fundamentalist Christian kind of community environment, home, family. My parents met at a Christian university, and um, so that's the background that I come from. I transitioned into, as I got older, into more of a charismatic expression of Christianity, which was still kind of fundamentalist in nature. Nothing wrong with fundamentalism in and of itself, but we are kind of moving, as I think, a species, out of fundamentalism and into more holistic ways of perceiving and thinking and navigating in the world, right? Um, but the fundamentalist piece is important because it ties into the experience that I had. Um, So while I was in the charismatic church, I received a lot of prophetic words from people, and there were several prophetic words that were connected to me having some kind of impact on like leadership in this country from a more of a in that world, the language they would use would be intercession, which is prayer. And I kind of hold that now as more of a shamanic way of being. Okay. Um, and in, I approached each shift in our presidents since 2000. I think it was 2000. Yeah. Asking spirit, like, who is correct to be president at this time? Not like from a place, not wanting to interject my own opinion about it. Like who's correct, right? Um, and I know that that's kind of a loaded, because there obviously different people would have maybe different information about what's correct, right? But I really strived to come from a very uh, unattached place, and I started this in 2000, and I prayed, and the vision I saw was of a burning bush, and I knew from that, I interpreted from that that Bush was meant to be president. And I think the burning bush thing really linked to 9/11. That was the burning bush moment for really the world. Um, this kind of encounter. And I talk about that in my previous talk of that being a sign that of us entering into the age of Aquarius. All the 11s, the Aquarius being the 11th sign, Aquarius ruling trauma and kind of and suddenlies, which 9/11 certainly was. um and then in between 2000 and 2008, I left the church and went into this. I followed this um circuitous winding path out of the church into the darkness, is how it was revealed to me. It felt like I was leaving what I knew and into going into the void, and had some radical paradigm shifts. My first encounter with astrology it just blew me wide open because of how and I could talk about that at another point. I don't know if I have time now to talk about that, but um and I knew I needed to study astrology, and thankfully I found evolutionary astrology pretty quickly, which is for me was like really soulful and deep and heart based, and looking at very choice centered, that we have choice, that it's not all fated. Yes, we have choice about how we respond to our chart or how we respond to the transits. um so the piece that we can't see in the chart is our consciousness, or our awareness, our ability to be conscious in life. And so I learned from working with people how sometimes the more traumatic experiences were were the most impactful and evolutionary. They held the most evolutionary potential. um and sometimes if you knew what was coming, you could be proactive, and you could start cooperating with that energy, right, and shifting and changing. um so I say that because I feel like I developed a deep trust in the unknown, in that the experiences that we have as humans forge us, that uh, there's really no bad experience. It's only bad depending on how we react to it, interpret it, hold it, right? The meaning that we give it. And there's a lot of kind of, I feel like, junk astrology out there that's really goes to the worst case and doesn't really make room for the magic that we have as divine human beings in our consciousness. Um, and I moved to Hawaii as a travel nurse and had a very, very powerful consciousness awakening experience with a teacher there, actually through a video. The teacher wasn't actually on Hawaii in Hawaii. Um, and it brought me, it circled me back to the teachings of Jesus from a very different point of view. And um, and I began to really contemplate and feel into what is this shifting of the ages. And my teacher that I apprenticed with talked a little bit about it. Um, and it became this, I had this like deep hunger and um, yearning to just sit with it and mull it over, contemplate this age of Aquarius. And um, hmm. And I talked about in my previous talk about working with people intuitively and seeing them in the intuitive healing sessions, getting imagery of them kind of coming up out of the ocean and walking onto dry land. And this, to me, I interpreted that as a shift of people coming out of the collective unconscious of Pisces, we could say, where everything is in the ocean, everything goes back into the one, to people stepping into uniqueness, differentiation, being who they are meant to be, and stepping into their fuller potential. And I found what I feel I discovered was that our light, our divine aspects, hey there, kitty, our yeah, our goddess, divine pieces, aspects, powers, um, light, that that is held in the deepest parts of the unconscious, deeper than our shadow, deeper than the dark pieces of us. That's what I came to intuit and know, is that. And I kept having this vision of myself diving into this well and swimming to the bottom of this well and finding this chest, opening this chest, and it was like all this like brilliant gold in the chest at the bottom of this well. And this to me was like symbolic of what I just said. It's like our gold, you know, and it's often been said like where our deepest wounding is where our deepest gifts are, right? So this feels important to just speak because it ties into where I ended up going. Um, Now, circling back to the president, um, in 2007, during the primaries, I had a vision that Barack Obama was meant to be president, and um, it felt very clear. It felt like he was going to be a president for a gray zone, a gray area, like um, like an in-between space, like the imagery I got was like the children of Israel coming out of Egypt and going into the wilderness, and this kind of some place of coming out of captivity and still being in the mindset of captivity. I don't know, just an interesting, it's an interesting story to kind of link to our country and that time period, which I feel like is still in some ways connected. But so I had this vision of him winning, becoming president, and at the same time, I felt this. Uh, I felt spirit asked me how it. I was asked to stand in a gap for him, and I didn't really. I didn't really understand why that would be necessary until, and I said yes, I would stand in the gap. I would pray for him. I would intercede. Whatever I needed to do. And that became more clear to me. A couple things. First, I was watching an interview with Hillary Clinton on a TV show, and this was during the primaries, and she talked about how Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated in California when he was campaigning for president during the primaries, and was assassinated in California. And then she talked about Barack Obama being in California. And my intuitive sense, the alarms went off in me, and I was like, holy, like this is like there's something being weaved here to create an assassination. And at least that's how I interpret it. You can interpret it how you want to, and you don't have to agree or believe what I'm saying. But and so that was like, oh. At the same time, in my healing work, in my healing practice, had I had been attracting people who had either present or past life experience with satanic ritual abuse. I don't know, like this is not easy territory, easy stuff to talk about, but have people heard of that kind of stuff? You can just shake your head. Yeah, okay. I was connected with someone from my spiritual community who grew up in an abusive community like that she had been abused, ritually abused. And and then other clients who had past life experience with it. And to my knowledge at that time, like I'd had a number of past life recalls prior to that time, but I'd never had recalled any kind of experience with SRA. And if this is impacting you in some way, just breathe and let it ground. you know that there is, it's dark underbelly stuff. And I think a lot of people maybe discount it or don't want to believe that it actually is real. But there was, with that experience coming into my healing work, like, one, I probably should have been like, well, there was a question in me. Is like, is this something that I'm really capable of interacting with? There was that question for me, and I chose to take it as experience that I was needing to have. I was needing to encounter this, and partly because of my own knowledge of my own astrology chart, that I have my North Node in Scorpio conjunct Uranus in the third house, well, on the bottom of the chart. And so I knew that I needed to encounter some really dark, traumatic material in this life. So both of those were happening at the same time. And I'm just going to pause and just see if there's any questions or any comments, or how's everybody doing? If you can just say you're okay, you're good in the chat, or just wave at me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here and listening. So so Pluto is a big heavy hitter planet, and it takes a number of years to go through each sign that it goes through. Pluto went into Capricorn in late January, I believe, of 2008. And hit some important points in my chart. Specifically my Chiron, and which is connected to my South Node, and is kind of a shamanic indicator, especially when it's connected to the South Node in some way. But and I'm using the word shamanic in a loose way. It's not like I'm trained in shamanism, any kind of formal shamanism. I use it in the sense of ways of working with energy, and the unconscious, and serving a collective. So in January of 2008, I had a vision of myself, and that I'd had this repeating vision of the well, which I mentioned before, and I had this vision of myself being in the bottom of this well. The water was gone. It was like the water, it had all been processed or pulled through or something. It was dry. So I was in the bottom of this well. It was sand. And all of a sudden there was this earthquake, like a really huge earthquake. And the bottom of the well was flush with the ground. And the well turned into a geyser. It's like there was this huge body of underground water that I didn't know existed, that just erupted out of this well. And then it was like 2 to 3 months later that I went through we could say, a psychotic break, is how medicine would have called it. For me, it was that, it was a crazy experience. It was very crazy, but it was like this collective material erupting through me, and I couldn't maintain the volume and the rapidity and just the intensity of what was coming through me was beyond my ability to stay in rationality. It's like I stayed in my body. I stayed in my body, but my mind was fractured. And it was as if I was a satanic ritual abused person. It's like I had maybe it's almost like I had taken in enough of that energy just to yeah, there's a way in which I took it on, possibly, but it's almost like my experience with it energetically was important for what I went through. And it was very strange, multidimensional. It felt like I was in another reality. And it was also very much connected to the Christ mythos. Like I went into the mental hospital on Palm Sunday and got out on Good Friday. There was this really strange interweaving, and I felt like in the process of the experience, it felt like I was being sacrificed. It felt like that. And things that came up in my awareness, in my mind, like lots of fairy tales and children's stories. And I liken it to, I was brought into the collective unconscious around the whole theme of ritual abuse and mind control. That was where I entered in. And when I got out of the mental hospital, I spent a lot of time, like I was pretty fractured. I felt like I was torn apart somewhat in the mental hospital. And I feel like I needed to be, because I needed to be in the mental hospital because what was erupting out of me needed a container to be able to project it onto. And so there was lots of interesting characters in the mental hospital that I knew represented different characters in our society, spiritual teachers, thought leaders, and it felt like it was all being watched. It's like this, it was just this moment at a time, and in this very multidimensional experience that I couldn't quite grasp. I mean, I was just breathing, and I had enough embodiment skills to know that I wanted to stay in my body. I didn't want to go anywhere, even though I felt that there was energies that wanted to take me over. um I felt like my job was just to watch, witness, and to make it through. Like that was um what my job was. And when I got out of the mental hospital, I started researching ritual abuse because I didn't know, like I wanted to know more about what was actually happening. And I didn't realize that they used children's stories to help fracture the mind of children. Um, and there's different books that you can read about it, people who've come out of it or survived it, who were able to come out of that and write about it and share their stories. Um, so I spent a good six, that happened around Easter, right? And then I was in this place of integrating, recovering, researching, studying for the rest of that year up until the election happened in November. And then I went back into the mental hospital, kind of like my exit out of that unconscious realm. And when I came through so it was a lot of different things happened during that time. um I don't know that I fully understand it even to this day. It's kind of that maybe impossible to fully understand, but I've been able to heal. Like it took me years to even talk about it. um but I was told when I got out the last time that it would never happen again. But it was like this shamanic initiation, some shamanic passageway that I had to go through. And several things that I want to share about. Thank you, Janice. Um, so I talked earlier about our gifts, our divine gifts are really the deepest part of the unconscious. They're deeper than our shadow, they're deeper than our wounds. And my sense was that these technologies like ritual abuse and mind control have been utilized on our planet for centuries by different groups, elites, and maybe even otherworldly energies, right? Other dimensional energies to suppress our capacities as humans. So it's like we've had this ceiling on our ability to evolve and embody ourselves fully. And it's now time in this age of Aquarius for that ceiling to be lifted. And there's a lot of apocalyptic talk these days. The world's going to end from climate change, or um, economic, or energy, war. Um, and a lot of this, I feel, is generated from a mind control propaganda kind of place, because we are creators, and if our attention can be corralled in a certain direction collectively, then we will create that outcome. So it is so time for us as humans to really own our creative potential and to not buy into the fear mongering and the manipulation of our mind. And I don't think it doesn't take a lot of us to create a different story, to create a life affirming and human affirming story. I mean, so much of the ritual abuse, there's a lot of death in that. There's sacrifice, there's black magic, and I believe there are other technologies that have been used on on the human race to keep us suppressed. um and it's like we've been living with an unconscious death wish as a species, and it's really time for us to choose life. And I can feel how that choice for me is one that I continually made in the mental hospital. um yeah, there's more that I could say, but I feel like this is, to stay here, to be here, that it wasn't about getting out of here. I grew up in a home, in a belief system that we were all waiting for Jesus to come back and take us out of here. you know and I remember growing up thinking, like, well, Jesus, don't come back too quick. I I haven't lived a life yet. um but there's so many people who are waiting for Jesus to come and save them or rescue them and send them back to take them back to heaven. And I feel like that's a co-opted belief system, really. That really we're here to bring heaven to earth. Heaven's meant to be here. um and yeah, maybe it looks like that's an impossibility if you just look at the surface circumstances, but we're really here to bring heaven to earth. And I feel like it's gotten crazy, it's gotten, more intense. It's like since that time, like, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, if you've heard of him, he wasn't in the news, and neither was the Pizzagate and all that stuff, which, that lots of conspiracies have become uh, reality over these last years. But we're in a time where people are waking up, because the magnitude of what's getting revealed and the suppression that the government has stepped into is so big that it's forced people into an awakening. And so, yeah, it's intense, it's difficult, and there's threat of World War III, which I really don't feel is going to happen. Not, I mean, there's a way in which it's already happening in a more covert way, but um I I have a lot of hope for us as humanity. I feel like we're going to be going through some dark times over the next years, difficult times, but they don't have to be we don't have to be hopeless. It's like we've been operating at a certain level for so long as humans, that in order for us to get through that kind of spiritual ceiling that we've been dealing with, like the shit has to come up to get revealed and to be seen. So we're going to have more shit come up, more stuff come up to be seen. And I guess I want to encourage us to see that as a positive sign, and not a backward stepping place. It's actually forward movement. Like that we're in the exposure of these things, we are stepping into more and more of our own authority, our own sovereignty, our own authorship, if we can simply recognize that and claim it. um create what we want, build what we want, and focus on the light, while also being aware of what's coming up. We don't have to react to it. We can just hold space for it, love it, forgive it, and turn that energy into our own authority, authorship, and creativity. So I'm curious if anyone wants to say anything, or just comment, question.
Yeah, it's so weird that I've been having these conversations with myself all week, and it's like you're the culminating force of the week, that you're bringing all of this information that I've had swirling around in my head and bringing it into one pointed moment. Yeah, I think that part of this age of Aquarius is about um, dealing with the shadow of what's been happening with humanness, and bringing those shadows to the surface so that we can deal with them and heal from them, because they haven't worked for us. And I think that's showing in every aspect of our lives. I feel it anyway. I don't know that other people feel it, but I feel that. And I feel that, all of this stuff with government and with medicine and with religion is all of the shadows are being brought to the surface. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Janice. It's not necessarily fun, you know, but it's important, and it is necessary. And how can we truly step into our own uniqueness if we are burdened by the shadow of really the really dark shadow? There's a lot of evil that we have got to own, that we have dissociated from, you know.
You can't be afraid of it. That's the whole, I think people are afraid to even talk about it or address it. That's the opposite of what we should be doing. Bringing
Right.
it into the light is what's going to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, we don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to cooperate with it. We can love it and transmute. We can take back our power in the light, right? um Thank you, Janice. Yeah. Bradford, Sue, you want to speak anything? No pressure, just making the space available. Let me just see if there's how I want, feel free to unmute yourself and just speak. I'm just going to pause for a moment and be in some silence. Pluto is getting ready to go into Aquarius um, on the 23rd. So this week, Pluto moves into Aquarius for a few months, and then it goes back into Capricorn. And then next year it'll go back into Aquarius for the next 15 years to the 40s. I forget what the actual exit date is into Pisces, but and Saturn moved into Pisces a couple weeks ago. But anyway, the Pluto into Aquarius feels really big. It's um, Aquarius being the sign that we're in collectively as far as the age of Aquarius. So that backdrop is important. Um, and Pluto being ruling the shadow, ruling the unconscious, ruling the hell realm, essentially. Pluto was the god of the underworld. And we really got the hell realm shown to us from the Capricorn perspective. Capricorn ruling governmental structures, and really societal structures, the healthcare system, the government. We got to really see the links to which government and healthcare system would go to control and manipulate and all of that. So it's definitely been a wake-up call for us as humanity. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, the French Revolution happened. And you can track back through history, that revolutionary, evolutionary times were often linked to Pluto being in Aquarius or very close to being in Aquarius. And so I feel there will be an upswelling of freedom movement and the counter pressure from the structures, so that energy might get will most likely get more intense, especially from technology and social media and the Aquarius ruling technology, ruling all of the internet. So I imagine we will see more freedom in technology and more control through technology. Both polarities will be there. um, and I think this idea of working with polarities and the tension, the stress of polarity is not something that's going to go away. It's that is a strong Aquarian piece. We're just being invited to step into greater maturity in how we hold the tension, how we hold the polarities. Can we still see a unified or a unity within the polarities, and the purpose and the benefit of the different polarities. So that's part of what I see coming. I think I want to shift to maybe a visualization or more of a healing kind of experience for the rest of our time together. Is that is that okay for everybody? Okay. I'm just going to invite everyone to close your eyes and just bring your attention, your awareness to your own heart. Feel the love in your heart. Let that love be big right now. The love that you have for yourself, your love for your relationships, your love for your world. And just with every breath, I invite you to allow that love to be bigger, stronger, more and more real. And allow your love to touch every cell of your body. And every emotion, every part of your psyche. Your mind, and whatever way, direction it might go in, let love touch your mind. Forgiving the ways that you maybe have turned on yourself or turned on others in your world. Just forgiving and choosing to love. And any fear or grief or sadness that might be in you in this moment, allow love to touch those places. And breathe. even the places that you're unconscious of or you don't care about. Maybe there's places that you just don't want to care about. Let love touch there too. And the joyful places, the happy places, the places that you feel confident and successful in your world, let love touch those too. Let your love get bigger and bigger, rippling out into the world, touching those around you, touching the world around you. Forgiving the unconsciousness of your world, our world. I forgive my world for being unaware. Forgive my world for being controlled and manipulated. I forgive my world for betraying me, betraying us, betraying itself. And I choose to love my world. I choose to be light in my world. I choose to shine in my world. And maybe just giving ourselves permission to step even more fully into who we are as divine human beings, that God is in us. And if God isn't a word that you like, maybe it, you know, the universe is in you, the divine is in us. And it's time for us to shine our divine light in this world, in our world, to reset our world. Not in a man-made idea of what reset needs to be, but in from a place of divine, powerful, and empowering reset from darkness to light, from unconsciousness to excitement, excited awareness. That heaven be manifest here on earth, on our earth. And I invite each of you, each of us, to imagine our world already awake and thriving. What does our world look like with that miracle already manifest? Our world awake and thriving. And just allow yourself to play with your imagination in this moment. I'm going to be silent for a few moments, but what does our world look like? With our sovereignty, our freedom, our awakeness, our clarity already happened, already here, now. What's different about our world? What's different about the way that we show up in our world, the way that we walk and talk in our world from this place of wholeness? And feel free to express your love to your world, to yourself, either in your mind, in your imagination, or verbally. What do you want to say to your world? What do you want to convey to your world, yourself? What do you want more of? What would you like to see more of, to experience more of? I am grateful for my world. I am grateful to be here. I choose to be here fully. I jump into my destiny and play here. I choose to be playful and have fun here. And what part of you, what divine gifts in you are able to be expressed in this awake world? See yourself, let yourself imagine how those gifts, how your gifts show up, even if you don't know what those gifts are yet. Let yourself imagine your gifts expressing, shining, radiant in you, from you, to your world. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you notice? What do you feel as you share your gifts? What are you doing? Who are you with? I invite you to just, when you're ready, come back to your awareness of this present moment and being in your chair, maybe wiggling your toes or just wiggling your body a little bit in your chair, thanking yourself, loving yourself. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm really grateful for each of you being here today and for playing and for listening and for supporting me as I share. I thought I would cry more, but I guess I got that out of the way before. Does anyone want to come on and say anything? Or we're close to the hour here, so we'll close, but feel free if you want to say anything or type anything in the chat.
I'm good, David. Thank you for sharing everything.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Janice, for being here. Thank you, Bradford. Thank you, Sue. Just lots of love. And until next time. Did you want to say something, Bradford?
Just wanted to say thank you, David.
You're welcome. Thank you. All righty. Bye-bye, everyone.